Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello to you and welcome back to the channel where today we're going to check out the brand new BMW M2 Competition. We'll take a look at the exterior, the interior, all of the new features and the changes from the previous M2 in this first look at the brand new car from BMW. Now I wasn't able to make it to the studio, but my man on the ground grabbed a look at the new car at BMW's HQ, and let's get started with a little montage of the new M2 Competition. Here it is, the brand new and long-awaited M2 Competition. There have been so many rumours along the way as to what form this car would take in its final production specification, but here it is, ready and set for us to take a good look around and explore. Based on the M2 LCI, the Lifecycle Impulse, or facelifted version of BMW's hugely popular sports car, in this case the M stands for more. More on the outside, more on the inside, more under the skin, including the engine that is now borrowed from the M3 and the M4. We'll take a look under the bonnet and talk more about that, including the facts and figures and the lovely engine bay later on. But it's the first time they've purely used the model designation Competition. We've had the Competition package versions of previous models from the lineup, but now this car is just M2 Competition. It sits above where the regular M2 would have been in the lineup, however that car is now actually going out of production due to new legislation reasons around emissions and the changes that would be required to make it pass. The Competition features specific parts and design styling cues on the exterior that we'll take a good look at, as well as the upgrades including the engine, suspension, brakes, cooling and intakes, which we'll get to as we explore, starting off around the front with some of the visual changes to be found. Firstly, the eyes of the car, the new adaptive LED headlights. They sport a new style and offer adaptive functionality and bring us around towards one of the identifying features of the Competition, the new look to the iconic BMW kidney grills. So worn at the centre of the front of the car, the grills are now connected together, have a more aggressive design, and also wear a black frame around them. So this is something you'll see around the car. The chrome parts that would be standard on a regular M2 are now painted in shadow black, just to emphasise the sportiness of the car. Beneath that, down to the base, beneath the large intake, you'll see three styling cues, not for aerodynamic reasons, but again will distinguish a Competition. Either side of that though, the intakes at the side have a new shape and design to them that you'll spot, although in a very minor way, and also, for BMW M2 fans out there, park distance control is now standard front and rear. Talking about the rear, we've also got new taillights, a new Competition badge that BMW have never previously used, as well of course as a new exhaust system given the fact that the car is fitted with a different engine to before. Those are finalised with some black tips as well. Then let's move on to one of the most significant changes found in the Competition, and that is the engine. It's the S55 unit taken from the M3 and M4. That's a 3-litre twin-power turbo inline 6-cylinder. In this instance, it makes 410 horsepower and 550 newton meters of torque. Pretty impressive numbers, 40 horsepower more than the 370 in the M2 and 50 newton meters of torque more than the M2's 500. It also has the oil and air cooling systems from the M3 and M4, as well as the lovely carbon fibre strut brace that is worn over the top. By default, the M2 Competition comes with the 6-speed manual gearbox, but it can also be opted to have the 7-speed DCT, the dual clutch transmission, and that will get you 0 to 100 km an hour or 62 miles an hour in just 4.2 seconds. The manual comes in just behind at 4.4, but in both cases that's 0.1 quicker than in the regular M2. The top speed of both is limited to 250 km per hour or 155 miles per hour, and that can be raised slightly with the optional driver's package up to 280 k's, so 10 faster than in the previous M2. If you opt for the manual version of the car, it has the auto blip rev matching, which can be disabled in DSC off but is otherwise on. The DCT version of course carries launch control for the quickest possible pull away. Back towards the exterior, and in particular the side of the car, where you will notice the new M door mirrors. Now this follows huge numbers of customer requests to change away from the standard 235i mirrors that the regular M2 wore, to now introduce M-styled mirrors that, as you can see, almost connect back towards the A-pillar at the top in traditional style. The car also has a new wheel option. It can be fitted with the previous wheel, but also the new multi-spoke option that you can see. As well as that behind, there are new brake discs and calipers, 2 extra pistons front and rear on the optional M braking system, as well as a new side grille, again in shadow black. That was previously a performance option but now comes standard on the Competition. The suspension is changed to minimise body roll without loss of comfort. It's not the same as the performance system that was offered before, but is a revised and improved suspension setup. Let's take a look at the interior of the M2 Competition, where of course not too much has changed, but there are a number of differences. So starting off just looking at the door card, you'll see the sporty finish, also the blue stitching in here. You can also now have orange as well. On the door sills, the M2 Competition logo with the nice kick plate right there as you step over to get in. And one big difference is this new optional sport seat. So finished here in a mix of leather and Alcantara, the perforations as well as the stitching can also now be in blue and orange depending how you'd like to have it. And the seat also sports halfway up the backrest the very nice M logo, which is illuminated as well and looks very smart. It's a nice touch to add to this car with the new seats. I've heard they're very supportive to take a seat in, and one thing that's a nice upgrade versus the previous model. Generally around the interior there are a couple of other updates. So as part of the facelift, the LCI update, the dashboard is now moved to a full digital display. Previously it was of course the more traditional analog setup. There's a sports steering wheel, and this car is supporting the 6-speed manual gearbox, to the left of which you'll notice the controls for the variable driving modes. If we take a seat inside the car, we can have a proper look around and talk about the interior and what has changed. Pulling the door to with the carbon fibre effect handles, there's a lot to discuss, including those variable drive settings and how they all come together. So we'll talk a fair bit about that shortly. One thing that's different is the new red start and stop button. Once to bring up the power, once to turn on the ignition. Of course, something that was introduced on the M5 along with its M1 and M2 settings, but a nice touch to carry across, where the digital display comes to life with the speedometer to the left and the rev counter on the right. We'll run through the different buttons in detail, starting at the top with the traction button, one press for MDM, one for all off. Then you have the variable settings, and at the bottom the park distance control. M2 owners will know that without that on the previous model, if your rear sensors were going off, you couldn't actually stop them. So the digital display, still quite a traditional appearance. You can see pressing the different buttons cycles us through the various modes from efficient to Sport Plus, and for the steering, the Comfort, Sport and Sport Plus. Those will change the involvement, the experience, but the car doesn't have adaptive suspension. On the steering wheel to the left side, as well as the cruise control, you also have the M1 and M2 buttons. Those can be pre-configured depending how you'd like to have them set up, and adjust the various different aspects of the car. When you go through them, you'll notice that it asks to confirm to disable traction control, but otherwise on the right hand side inside the rev counter gives you a little indication of what you've selected. On the right hand side you have your phone controls. Moving over towards the center console where we're familiar with, you have your climate controls and some hotkeys right above that. But at the very top is the new display, the navigation system that now incorporates a touchscreen. It has the tile style system that we've seen in other BMW models. So here with navigation, the connected drive options and communication over to the right, you can move around the different tiles or slide between different displays, bringing up your media, radio, vehicle, notifications and the like. The navigation obviously then offers pinch, touching to zoom and go through your different modes and displays. It's a nice system, perhaps it could be a touch more responsive, but also you have the option to control it via the traditional iDrive controller and hotkeys should you wish, just to make things a little bit easier, or if let's say you're on the move and reaching up to the screen is a little bit awkward. Navigation across Europe, not quite sure where we're zooming into, but somewhere, who knows, take the car and go off for a drive. So the navigation, all sorts of traffic information, map views, interactive map, you can set up, add all the usual things that you're expecting to see with information for on-street parking, fuel prices available as well. Connected drive, all BMWs coming with a SIM card and being connected to the assistance and concierge services. So let's say, for example, you have an incident. The car will call for support before you might be able to do so yourself, but it also shows the weather information depending where you are, detecting, of course, via GPS, news and other updates. So it's a very connected and well-involved information system, offering all sorts of different functionality. Your Bluetooth, of course, is all featured in there, nicely updated versus the previous models. In fact, going back, BMW were one of the first to introduce their iDrive system, and it's something that's become very frequently found across all sorts of different manufacturers now in the latest generation. So you can change different settings, your audio, your screen display style side of things, CD, USB, iPod, radio, digital radio, everything functionally available that you might expect the car to have. If we go deeper into the vehicle settings, we have the configuration for mDrive 1 and 2, the toggles on the steering wheel, which you can set up exactly how you would like. You have the options for the DSC level, whether you have it on, MDM or off, and also you have the engine and steering configuration as we've seen. In other BMW models, that third blanking plate would occupy the suspension configuration, but the M2 Competition from factory does not have any form of adaptive suspension. We also have technology in action, so you can bring up the sport displays, for example, see the power and torque figures while you're on the go. If you wish, you can also see efficient dynamics, just to see how efficiently you're driving, but I find it quite interesting to see that information on the go. Obviously, you have all your onboard computer and trip computer details too, and even the owner's handbook, if you need to look something up while you're on the go. So back to the home screen, you have those tiles that you can move around and change what's on the home screen. You can even load up different apps as well for that screen to show at the top of the dashboard. Around the gear stick, you also have the stitching on the surround, the carbon fibre effect trim around the iDrive controller, and over to the passenger side, the nice finish to the dash, as well as a fairly large glove box. Obviously, you've got the user guidebooks and things in there at the moment. I'll just close that up and continue looking around. We have some cup holders just in front of the gear stick with the cover that slides forwards and backwards, and some small storage areas, as well as the 12-volt socket and USB port that you can find in there. So it's all very functional, very well equipped, opened by the chrome handles that you have there too. There's a nice silver footrest over towards the left of the pedals, the 3 pedals in this car, above which I should have mentioned you have some controls for the lane assist and the like. An interesting thing is the door pockets. You'll have noticed there's a cup holder and various cubbies in there to stop things sliding around. Obviously just above you have your windows and your mirror controls as per usual. The steering wheel has very nice stitching in the M colours around its additional controls also, and then just to switch it back off, the red start stop button that is becoming a distinct feature of the BMW M cars. So what's left to tell you? Well, this particular car we've been looking at is painted in Hockenheim silver. It's one of the 5 different colours available on the M2 Competition. The others are Sunset Orange, newly introduced, Long Beach Blue that we're familiar with from the regular M2, Alpine White and Sapphire Black. Deliveries of the cars are going to start in August or September of 2018, and actually the US cars are going to be built first, so that all deliveries around the world will start at the same time. Prices are yet to be announced, but expect it to come in somewhere between the existing M2 and the M4 Coupe. There we go then, a first look and an opportunity to check out the new BMW M2 Competition. Do let me know down below in the comments if this is what you were hoping BMW would make. To me, the M2 has always reinvented some of that character that the E46 M3 used to have, and no doubt the new Competition is going to take that on even further. I certainly look forward to driving it in the future, and hopefully we'll be sharing that video with you when I get an opportunity to check it out in person, so make sure you're subscribed to see that as soon as the time comes. That is it for now though. Thank you very much as always for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll be sure to see you again very soon. Cheers!